Hello everyone, welcome to Inconvenient Truths. I'm your host, Jennifer Zeng. Today I will talk about three topics: the CCP's newly passed Reserve Military Service Law, the largest scale protest in Wuhan City since the Tiananmen Square movement in 1989, and how the CCP's regime could be affected by lacking money. While everybody was busy following the news about the Chinese spy balloon, the CCP has quietly passed its Reserve Military Service Law. Although this law says that the reserve personnel is mainly selected and supplemented from the retired soldiers and professional technicians and skilled professionals who are qualified for reserve service and registered for reserve service, in theory, everyone can be included because many selected and supplemented from the retired soldiers and professional technicians and skilled professionals means it doesn't rule out any others who are not retired soldiers and professional technicians and skilled professionals. It lists six conditions that one must meet to be enlisted. They are: 1, you should love the CCP and China. 2, you should abide by laws. 3, you should be 18 years old or older. 4, you have the physical conditions and mental qualities to perform your duties. 5, you have a certain educational level and working ability. And 6, you should meet other conditions stipulated by laws and regulations. So overall, it seems to me that only 18 years old or older is a hard condition that cannot be interpreted randomly. The other 5 conditions are up to the CCP to interpret. This means anyone who is 18 years old or older can be forced to enlist, including females. Article 36 of the law stipulates that once a national defense mobilization is announced, quote, after receiving the call-up notice, reservists must report to their designated place at the specified time in accordance with the requirements. After the state issued the mobilization order, the reserve personnel who have not received the call-up notice shall not leave the reserve registration place without the approval of the troops and the military service organs of the reserve registration place. If they have left, they shall return immediately to or stand by in the same place, unquote. Ordinary reservists can apply for discharge after reaching the age of 30. Officers need to serve until 45 to 60, depending on their ranks. You know, there are about 294 million people in China whose ages are between 18 and 30. So this is a very large group of people. You know, decades ago, when the CCP fought with the Kuomintang before it took power, it used the so-called human seed tactics. It forced a large number of unarmed civilians to charge forward in front of the CCP army to take all the bullets from the Kuomintang army. After the Kuomintang army consumed all of their bullets, the CCP soldiers won. So we must bear in mind that the CCP never cares about how many of its own people or soldiers die to achieve its goal. That's why it could make very different decisions and tactics when coming to war. The CCP's Reserve Military Service Law was passed on December 30th last year by the CCP's National People's Congress and will take effect on March the 1st. The new law was posted on a few official websites, but there weren't many news reports about it, so many people even didn't notice it at all. Does this mean that the CCP is accelerating its comeback preparations? Everyone can draw their own conclusions. When I searched for news reports about this law, I found an article written by a Chinese military blogger. He says a lot of military observers inside and outside of China believe that the reason why China passed such a law now is that China wants to learn a lesson from Russia and to get China well prepared for future military conflicts. He says that this is not the case. China just wants to improve their legal system for reservists so that we can start regular training for the reserve personnel and resolve the worldwide problem of reservists being unable to fight and afraid of fight. However, what interests me are the comments under his article. All 41 comments expressed how excited and proud they are for such a law being passed and how everyone should get ready to fight for the country. One comment says this, quote, "It is right to emphasize the reserve, but we should do more to develop nuclear weapons, directed energy layer drones, unmanned airships, and air and space weapons. Peace is good, but once there is war, we need to have a strong ability to hit the enemy's homeland. A strong country must have a strong army. We should get ever stronger, etc." Unquote. I'm not sure how much such so-called little pinks there are in China, but obviously these people are able to have a louder voice in China. So I think it is important for us to be aware that such a law has been passed in China, and the CCP now has the legal basis ready to conscript large number of reservists. This tweet says that the CCP is already recruiting soldiers, starting with the unemployed, those who will be laid off, and those who are going to graduate from college. This year, there are going to be 11.5 million college graduates in China. This poses a great challenge to employment. The CCP has been worrying about this, so recruiting some of them into the army could be a good solution. The tweet says that women will also be conscripted to serve as medics, or cooks. Now, let's move to our next topic today, the largest scale protest in Wuhan and what it tells us about the financial situation in China. Let's watch a short clip first. Well, basically, people said tens of thousands of people gathered in front of the government building of Wuhan City on February 8 and protested against the so-called health insurance reform in the city. The details of the reform are a little complicated. In general, before the reform, retired people can have about 260 yuan paid into their account for them to cover their medical costs. After the reform, the payment will drop to only 80 plus yuan, so that is a nearly 70% drop. This kind of money doesn't belong to the government. It was forcefully taken away from these workers when they worked. So it is their own money, but now the government doesn't want to give it back. Of course, people were very, very angry. From the video, we can see that there were a lot of people. If there were really tens of thousands, it was the largest ever since 1989. So that is a big deal. The protesters requested the mayor to explain why the payment would be dropped and threatened a larger scale gathering on February 15th if they didn't get a reply. Okay, from this video, we can see that although there were some security guards at this scene, there wasn't any physical conflicts. It is reported that the protest ended peacefully. This social media post says that after the protest, the Wuhan government urgently issued a notice saying that the reform is on hold. So this means for the time being, the protesters in Wuhan won this battle. However, the problem won't end. It has just started. Why would Wuhan City cut the health insurance payment of the 2 million retirees in the city in the first place? Because during the last 2 or 3 years, the fund was drained by the so-called large-scale free PCR testing. The free testing wasn't free after all. It was covered by everyone's health insurance fund. Apart from that, the real estate market isn't doing well either. In Wuhan, houses can't get sold even though prices have dropped as much as 30%. Now, look at this. This social media post says that in the middle of 2022, in a city in eastern China, the CCP's discipline inspection committees acted in unison, stationed in machine government departments to investigate the issue of illegal part-time employment of public officials. You know, for many low-level public officials who don't have much power or connections, they don't have many means to get corruption money. So some of them manage to get some extra money by finding a second or third part-time job. For public officials, this is not allowed. So when they got caught by the Discipline Inspection Committee, they had to admit that they were wrong and agreed to be fined. However, when they saw their tickets, they were all dumbfounded. The fines were as high as 600 to 700,000 yuan. Some were even 1 million yuan. Many officials got fined this way, and altogether the city confiscated 2.5 billion yuan at a time. This post says that some officials were asked to return the bonus they received even several years ago. This post says, why did many government officials want to find a second job as their salaries were very low while house prices were very high? If they didn't find a second job, they couldn't afford to buy a house. There is also a report that in Yichun City in China's northeast Heilongjiang province, the authorities are downgrading the administration level of 4 areas. This was called reverse adjustment. The point is, after these previously administrative offices were downgraded, the number of how many staff members they can have, as well as the salary levels of the staff, would all be downgraded. In this way, the government can save money. Everything in China had been upgrading and expanding for many years. So this reverse adjustment, this downgrading of city offices is not a small matter. It speaks of the reversed trend in China. Things are going downhill instead of uphill now. Also, news about public servants getting pay cuts also continues to appear online. On January 12th, the social media account of the Cultural and Tourism Bureau of Zhangqiu District in Jinan City, Shandong Province, published a post saying that everyone in the bureau just got pay cuts. The post was deleted soon, but the bureau did admit that some employees' salaries had been cut. On January 13th, a Chinese influencer in Guangdong City revealed that civil servants in Shenzhen City have taken 2 consecutive years of pay cuts and are now being asked to return part of their bonuses after 2020. In this way, the income of Shenzhen civil servants has been reduced by half compared to 2019. This influencer asked, even economically developed cities like Shenzhen are taking significantly pay cuts. What can be the situation in other cities with even higher debt ratios? On February 5th, the Chinese website Toutiao published an article saying that all 7 million public servants in China could become contract workers soon. The article said an appointment system will be implemented in the public servant systems, and everyone will sign a 1-year to 5-year contract with the government. No more iron rice bowl, which means no more guaranteed lifetime employment. According to public information, there are 7.1 million public servants in China, 13 million people in the party branches, unions, women's unions, and other organizations who are on the government's payroll, and 31 million people in the so-called 事业单位. I don't know how to translate that into English, as there is no corresponding concept in Western countries. Maybe it can be roughly translated into public institutions or government-affiliated institutions. Anyway, these people are on the government's payroll too. Apart from this, there are also tens of millions of retired people who also need to be paid by the government. So all in all, there are altogether more than 80 million people who need to be paid by the government, and their annual payment is about 7 trillion yuan. That is about 40% of the government's tax revenue. So obviously, the CCP is trying to get as many people as possible taken off that payroll list. The problem is police officers and grassroots officers whom the CCP has been relying on to maintain social stability are also on that payroll. If they also get a pay cut, do they still have enough motivation to work hard for the CCP? Now let's go back to the protest in Wuhan. How come tens of thousands of people suddenly gathered in front of the government building without being stopped? In 2019, I heard a true story from a source in China. there was a group of financial scam victims in Sichuan province trying to organize themselves to stage a protest in Chengdu City, the capital city of Sichuan province. While they were discussing how to do it back and forth on WeChat, the man who played a leading role in this group was suddenly arrested. Not only was the planned protest stopped, but these people in the group had also to organize money to hire a lawyer for the leader, as well as to support his underage daughter while he was in prison. So instead of getting their money back, they ended up spending more money. From then on, no one dared to try to get their money back again. So that's in 2019. 4 years later, the CCP is losing its ability to do the same, either because the police are not working as hard or because there are too many more people who are losing fear and who have decided to stand up, and the CCP's police force is not enough to handle them all. Whichever the case, the CCP is definitely facing a new vicious cycle of no money, no stability, no stability, no money. So somehow I'm confident that we will see the collapse of the CCP maybe in the not too far future. Well, that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. I found YouTube is again unsubscribing people for me. So please kindly double check that you are still subscribed or subscribe to my channel if you haven't. Also, if you could, please go to my website at jenniferzengblog.com. That's jenniferzengblog.com. Sign up for a membership or make a donation to support my truth-telling efforts. I always post my scripts with links to the material sources I use in my shows so that members can choose to read the scripts instead of watching the video to save time or to explore more and do their own research if they are interested. Thank you. See you next week.